You have a very, very interesting take on pop psychology. By the way, I
I
hate
do.
it. I hate
Yeah.
pop psych. It's the worst thing in the world. It's
Yes.
exactly what you said. It's echo chambers. You hear something
Yeah.
that's cute and you have
Yeah.
no research and you
None.
say, oh, yeah, okay, that's me.
Yeah.
The last 3 years, everybody that doesn't agree with you is a narcissist. You know,
Everybody.
so I absolutely hate it. But I don't
Hmm.
think until I started listening to your show and like following you a little bit that I never heard somebody push back against the current psychology and the things that's going on and the abuse that parents are going through, specifically mothers for,
Hmm.
and we'll get into that.
Hmm.
How did you? I'm always interested on how people think. How did you get to the point of like, wait a minute, they may have degrees and all of that good stuff, but I don't. Something's not clicking here.
I'll start with my own experience. I remember going to a therapist years ago. He was a white male, so that should have been a red flag because we had absolutely nothing in common at that point. Yeah, listen, I mean, it is what it is, but we had nothing in common. He couldn't understand me from a cultural perspective. He didn't understand me from being a woman. Like, there's several different things. And again, I'm not anti therapy, so I want to be very clear on that. I'm just anti weaponizing therapy. That is my problem with therapy. And this man, I would tell him at the time, it was because my mother and I had a very contentious relationship. So I've dealt with that as well. And the things that he would tell me, first, they weren't true. Although we had contention, I knew what the contention was for my mother and myself. But the things that he was trying to tell me, I knew they weren't true. And the way he was trying to tell me how to respond culturally is not something that we were taught to do. I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I stopped going to him. And then I started seeing another therapist during COVID because mentally I was struggling with seeing so many things real time. The George Floyd, the attack on the Capitol, all these things, I was seeing them in real time, and it was really starting to impact my mental well-being. And even with that therapist, I would tell her about my experiences as a child, and I've gone through a lot of things. I witnessed domestic violence with my own parents from the age of 5 up until I was a teenager. My father was an addict. I dealt with that as well. My father was incarcerated in and out a lot of different times. My mom and dad were divorced several times. And then my mom was abusive as well. However, when I talked to that therapist, I would talk about those experiences because she would like, well, tell me about your childhood. And I would just tell her very matter of factly because I had gotten over it. Do they still remain in my memory? Absolutely. But am I ruminating on them 50 plus years later? Absolutely not. And she would say to me, oh, you talk about those things like you're just going to go get a loaf of bread. She wanted me to break down and cry. And when I recognized that, I was like, girl, you're not helping me solve the real problem. I'm coming to you about my kids. That's my situation right now. And she didn't know how to navigate that space. And then additionally, as I continue to see the attacks on moms, and I'm going to say that because majority of all the content, all the therapists, all the content creators, the narrative is being pushed against moms and black women. That's number one. And it just made me think like all of y'all are saying the same things. And then the adult children are saying the same things. Like you said, somebody doesn't disagree with me. They're a narcissist. My mom is a narcissist. Oh, I called my mom and text her. She wouldn't answer. I'm abandoned. These type of things that are circulating around on social media. And I'm like, therapy. And not only that, Gerald, I hear it from the moms. You know how many moms say, my child and I had a great relationship. They started going seeing a therapist and then they changed. And then I've also experienced it with personal friends. Someone that I've been super, super close with, considered a sister, much younger than myself. And we've never had any contention, arguments, disagreements. Not that we had to agree with everything. There, we just didn't have a dynamic where it required that. We've always been able to talk about everything. She started going to therapy. I became a problem.
The here's I don't have a problem with therapy. I don't have a
Yeah, I
problem
don't
with
either.
therapy.
Not anti-therapy.
I think the problem with therapy, modern
Mm-hmm.
therapy, and the egotisticalness of our culture right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, it's just like this Molotov cocktail of something that's
Oh
getting ready
yeah.
to explode because
Yeah.
we're the hero. We're the heroes in our own story every single time,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
everybody who isn't affirming
He's the
us
victim.
and is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I this is one thing that I kind of discovered as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
I have three girls, 12, 10, and 9. They all just
Okay.
they just all had their birthdays. Shout out to
Okay.
Savannah, Lee, and Amaya if they
Happy birthdays.
ever hear this 20 years later. Um, as a kid, I was a human being, and I was raised by a single mom. I was a human being. I was a kid growing up, and my mom was mom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she had all the responsibility. Mom was mom. As a parent, I'm a human being, and my kids are kids.
Mm-hmm.
At no point in my mind ever were anybody in those relationships ever just humans.
Mm-hmm.
They were just roles. And and I mean, the old saying is true. Once you get old, you kind of realize how right your parents were.
Oh yeah.
My mom wasn't right about everything, no, but
Mm-hmm.
she what she was that she was a 20-something-year-old woman with three boys. She was
Mm-hmm.
a 30-year-old something woman with three teenagers. She
Mm-hmm.
was a 40-year-old woman who gave her whole youth and her whole time to raising
Yeah.
these boys. And then these boys grow up, do their own thing, and now she has no life
Mm-hmm.
because she
Mm-hmm.
gave everything to those boys, trying to raise them. And the thing that I love that's interesting about you is that you're trying to catch those moms before they give it all up.
Yeah. It's too late for some of them. It's too late for some of them, because they have wrapped their entire identity up into motherhood, similar to myself. And then when that's over and done with in this estrangement, these women even say they want to take their lives because their children are no longer talking to them.
Okay, so I want to get into like kind of like the general thing of motherhood and like what you're seeing and who you're talking to and who you're coaching and who
Mhm.
you're meeting with because you're doing a great work out there.
Thank you.
What's happening with the modern mom these days? Because like you're saying, the the I don't even want to say misnomers. I don't know what word to use, but the
Mhm.
ideas of 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago about
Mhm.
once that kid comes out of you, your life is over. Like, that idea
Mhm.
isn't like that's not it anymore. So like but okay, what are you seeing in the motherhood space now?
So
Who you're
there's different
talking to?
generations. I'm talking to,
Okay.
well, I'm talking to different generations from different perspectives. Okay, let's be clear on that. I'm talking to the boomer parent who has 40-plus-year-old kids who decided not to talk to them anymore, or they haven't spoken to them. One lady said she hadn't spoken to her child in 35 years. 35 years, and this woman is still ruminating and saying how heartbroken she is because her child won't talk to her. Then I'm talking, some of them don't know, allegedly. And listen, there's three sides to every story. There's yours, mine's, and the truth, right? And I'm fully aware of that. You can't play in my face with that at all. Some of them are political reasons. A lot, some of the children stop talking to them for who they voted for. I try to stay away from that, but if you bring it up, I'm going to address it, because I don't necessarily agree that a child should stop talking to their parent for their political beliefs. However, I do believe your child is going to look at you differently if you have political beliefs that not just don't align with theirs, but that go against humanity, equality, justice, all of diversity, all of those things.
I'm going to move
Okay.
you on because that can be a whole show
A
right
whole
there.
nother show. Right.
Yeah.
So, but to the point. So I'm aware of those two, right? They tread lightly when they bring it up, but when you bring it up, I'm gonna address it. Then a lot of women, Gerald, they don't know. A lot of them don't know. A lot of them have said, me and my child had an amazing relationship, or me and my children had amazing relationships. They started going to therapy, they came from therapy, and then all of a sudden they needed boundaries. I became a narcissist. They became estranged from their parent, and some of them claim to not know the reason behind it. Some of them have begged and pleaded. And when I say not just verbally, I have talked to moms and coached them in different countries. And these women have said, against my religious belief, because you don't beg and plead to your child, you don't grovel at their feet. They have physically gotten down on their knees, begging their children to tell them why they have become estranged. Some of it is their peers. Some of it is because they refuse to continue to funding them financially. I've had moms say, I gave my child $20,000 for a down payment on a home, and then as soon as they got into the home, they stopped talking to me. Same thing with weddings, same things with so many different things. There are so many diverse reasons, and then there are no reasons, because a lot of it has no validity. Because what is happening is you're going into social media, you're seeing all of these people saying what their experiences are with no validity to a certain degree. And then they're taking that on. So they're trauma bonding. They're creating these false narratives, and now their parents become the targets. And when I say their parents, 90% of it is going to be the moms. You rarely hear anything about dads across social media.
As a dad, I disagree.
Well, you must be on a different algorithm and send it to me because I don't.
You don't want my algorithm. My algorithm is cameras, podcasting, and
That might
dads
be good.
and
Might be a
wrestling.
change in the break. But okay, and that's fine. You may see it, but I'm going to tell you, with someone who is on social media, now a content creator, which is not something I asked for at all, nor did I want to do. I rarely see anybody speaking on dads. It's majority of moms.
So I'll share you my experience.
Hmm.
Um, dads are um paint the way that dads are painted. I'll say that dads are painted as buffoons. We're the
No.
yeah. Well, hear me out. Hear me out.